in-depth conversation. So tomorrow, I'm just going to wait for all of us to settle. So today is obviously the culmination, and we're going to finalize some of the conversations that we've been having throughout the round tables and yesterday. We're going to get directly into the first panel discussion, which is going to be on market access. Just a few housekeeping rules. Please note that when we are on stage, even if two of you are having a conversation, we can hear it. The sound travels. And so what happens is, for everybody else listening to the conversation, it disrupts the sound. Also, we do have some people joining us online, so then they're not able to hear the conversation clearly. So if I can please plead with you that we maybe wait to have our conversations during lunchtime, because we have created enough networking time. Please do still keep the conversations going. We have provided the hashtag, that's hashtag HSWomen23. If we could please do that, and Housing the Nation with the South African flag. I would like to acknowledge, we obviously do have Honorable Minister again in the room. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for being here again today. We know that it takes, you have a lot on your plate. So we really do appreciate that you've created this platform for us to have these conversations and to come up with solutions more than highlighting the actual challenges, because the challenges are there. Are we ready? Hi, guys. I need you to please partake in the conversations, because these are the challenges that you face, right? You're the people on the ground. You're the people who need these solutions. So I need us to be engaging. I know that yesterday we had some really great questions from the audience. We're going to do that again. So if we can please get the team members that will be handing out the microphones to already prepare themselves to be able to get the questions going, and then that would be fantastic. So today, for the first panel on market access, I'm joined by, I'm gonna introduce the speaker first, although she's not sitting right next to me, Mam Clara. I think you're fondly known as Mam Clara, actually, in the industry. She is from Sawik. Of course, we've heard a number of things about Sawik already yesterday. I was waiting for the Sawik ladies to applaud her, super, super loud. That's it. And we're also joined by Mudiegi Komane, who is from BBCBE. For those who are not aware what that stands for, that is the Black Business Council Built Environment. They want me to say CEO. We must give you your title. So then joined by Lorraine Moy, President of South African Women in Plumbing and Trades. I'm liking this crowd today. That's it. Let's start with you, Mam Clara. There's been quite a lot of conversation around Sawik. If you can maybe just start with giving us just a high overview of who and what is Sawik, and how do they enable other women to get this market access?
Okay. Thank you very much, Program Director. Let me first greet our Honorable Minister, Minister Comrade Kensani, that's how I call her, Comrade Kensani Kubai, and also the Deputy Minister in her absentia, Umama Upem Chete, the MMCs of the Northern Cape, including the MECs from the other provinces. In wrapping up, let me just say all protocol observed, more especially the women that are in this session today, from all organizations, not only Sawik. I greet you all in the name of Jesus. I also have to honor our former president, who is amongst us here, Umama Mpumi Pagade, who once led us in this organization. I also acknowledge her in the midst, including the NOB of Sawik, the current NOB, and all the provincial chairpersons that are here. Minister, you are indeed supported by SAWIC all over. Wherever you go, we are there. Wherever the DM goes, we are there. So you have full support of the organization called SAWIC and Built Environment. In introducing the organization, South African Women in Construction and Built Environment, it's an organization that was formed in 1997 by a female late minister, Umama Stella Stau. I think she had a vision of why did she want these South African women in construction to be there. It was SAWIC by then, without the BE. We only endorsed the BE in the AGM that we had in the Eastern Cape in 2018. I think she wanted to take us out of the kitchen because it's a male-dominated industry, but she made sure that she convened a session in 1997 in Gauteng, where this organization commenced. It's an organization of women that are in the brick and mortar environment, women that are willing to assist our government in making sure that they deliver the policies that are adopted in government, and women that are encouraging other women on the ground in the provinces to say, this is an industry, not an easy one, however, we are there as women. And the empowerment of women is the one that we are doing and that we are earmarking in this organization. When we talk brick and mortar, we talk about building houses that we are seeing outside there. I always say to the people, today we came to this session, and not with our regalia, but when you see us outside, you won't believe that these are women in construction. So we are an organization that was earmarked to empower women, and that was earmarked to put bread on the table, because as women, we are the champions and the custodians of our houses. So we are here working together with the Department of Human Settlement, and it's a relationship and a partnership that was formed by the former presidents, that one of them is the late Dr. Thandi Ndlovu, and also May Ingrid Verbeek, who is still alive. And I think we are still on track in making sure that as women, we are taken serious by the government of South Africa. As women, we deliver to assist the mandate of the policies that were formed and developed by our government. How do we deliver? By building these houses, working together with other entities, and making sure that everything that we have agreed upon with them, we will do, and we are doing it. That is SAWIC.
Thank you. Thanks, Ma'am Clara. You know, you said some interesting things, and one of the things that stuck out for me was taking women out the kitchen. You also said male-dominated industry. Then you said also brick and mortar. And I thought, whoa, if it's difficult for brick and mortar, imagine how much more so difficult it is for like plumbing, for instance, because building houses is not just the brick and mortar, it's everything else that comes with it. And so can you maybe just speak to us on what are the challenges you face on market access as well in the plumbing industry? Please, Lorraine.
Good morning, everyone. You know, I'm just a plumber, so these things, I need to remember protocol. So thank you very much for the invitation from the department. Minister, it's lovely to see you. Last time I was an exhibitor, this year I'm a panelist. Guys, I moved up, eh? You see we're moving up. I clap for me, hi, boo. To the MECs, to the Premier, to everybody, thank you so much. This Northern Cape, I've been here twice in 2 months, and every time I get more and more surprised. All protocol is observed. And to the awesome ladies and to the gents, thank you for being here. It's always exciting to be in a venue where there's so much women, because we come out with like flowers. If you look how you dress right now, like blommetjies, like the Namakwaland. Out in Namakwalanding. So just a bit of background, because when people see me, they don't think plumber. So I just want to just give you a bit of background. I am a licensed plumber. So I've been trade tested 10 years. My mother was also a plumber. I'm a compliance auditor, so I go and inspect other men's work, which is always fun. I'm the chair of the transformation in the plumbing industry. I sit on the EXCO of the Plumbing Industry Registration Board, which is our professional body as plumbers. I live, breathe, eat, sleep plumbing. I sit at SABS. I write standards. I help write the standards for the plumbing industry. So when I speak about the fact that I understand the value chain and every facet of my industry and the trade space, I do. I will not be shy about it. I do, because I've immersed myself in that. So in that, to answer your question, when you talk market access, you need to understand, people always think plumber, hey, the blockage, things that smell, or they think pipe together, water. But they're not realizing there's so much more to what we do. And there's so much within the trade space that women can play in. And whenever you walk into a situation where, like Mam Clara's talking about the brick and mortar portion, there's that. But there's everything else. So now, who's the one who installs the doors? That's the carpenter. Who is the one who's making sure the toilets are flushing? That's us, the plumbers. Who are the ones that are looking at the roof? That's over there. So there's always different aspects. And what women have seen is that they think, let me play in this space because it's safer. Guys, we are needed. You know, the eye that we have as women in this, we're on another level because we are detail-oriented. And hence why when you see a tradesman do a work, hi guys, there's no competition when you see a tradeswoman do it because of the level of understanding and that we immerse ourselves. Because we're already on the back foot, number one. Because when someone sees me arrive at their door, they're like, where's the plumber? And they look behind me. Like, no, here, look here. So you have to understand your industry. You've got to understand, where was this toilet made? If you're installing a toilet, how was it made? How do I make sure that you are getting best value for money? So when we are looking at the value chain, don't only look at the fact that if I go into trades, I'm going to have to be a fitter. What about manufacturing? What about the part where you are now creating? Where is the part where we are designing? But bathrooms have to be designed. You don't just come into a bathroom and say, I'm going to stick a toilet here, stick a toilet. You have to have the understanding. There is so much more involved within the value chain of the trade space. And I wish more women would get involved. In the plumbing industry, we are sitting at about a 3% participation, which is, compared to first world countries, we are ahead for once. We are, in the past 6 years, the plumbing industry has been very conscious because, number one, I don't lead them. Because all those old white men, I go to them, guys, we are here. And you've got to make sure that we are represented. Okay. So in the last couple of years, we've had an increase of about 183% of women that are qualified within the plumbing space. Wow, okay. Because it's a conscious thing that we are doing as industry to make sure that we include women in the space.
Nice. Thanks for that, Lorraine. I think I'm going to go first to Mum Juliet. And, she said some really interesting things when it comes to plumbing. And immediately when she looked at you and she said, roof repairs, I think it's only apt at this point in time that you add to the roof repair. I can only imagine if somebody's looking at a female saying, where's the plumber? What more so when it comes to, roof repairing? And perhaps what we need to do at this stage with you is let us know who Prower is, but before we can even put our hands up and fight and fists up for market access, we need to understand what it is that we're fighting for. So can you let us know who's Prower, how do they fit into the value chain?
Good morning, Minister. Let me say all protocols observed. Being a founder, it means that you've identified an opportunity in the market. Prower was established because of one thing. Customers were complaining that there is bad workmanship on the roof. And guess what? The demand started growing. And the only people who are currently responding to this demand are white males, predominantly. we do not find players who are women and youth in that industry. So I penetrated the industry. I sensitized the industry about government priorities. So one of the key things that we're focusing on is to ensure that power enables government to achieve. Let me make an example. A lot of us have a roof in our houses. In summer, it rains. What happens when the roof collapses? The whole structure collapses. But think about it this way. A roofer doesn't come just alone to fix the roof. Because when the roof leaks, it affects the geyser. So you need another artisan to come and fix the geyser. And then the ceiling gets affected. And you don't have women who put up the ceiling. It's always men who put up the ceiling. While you're looking at the ceiling, the tile is affected. Who is the tiler? It's a simple value chain when it comes to roofing. And this is just a model for home-based roofers. Think about the industries. You pay insurance on a monthly basis to secure your house from any disaster. But when you call the banks, who comes and fixes the roof? It's normally subcontractors who are white male, but guess who do they come with? They come with 10 male. Probably not even recognized, not even licensed. Those 10 males don't even have an opportunity to go and acquire skills and competence for them to be certified. So that's a bloody new opportunity for women to penetrate. Because what we want to see is this opportunity creating new workplaces. So one roofer can create 4 artisans with one work. So if you look at it simply, we're currently building RDP houses. How many houses do we? Once those houses have been built. It's a market you create. Young people are there who can be prepared for the next 3 years for them to be licensed, and they must be able to also issue certificate of compliance. So we want to get into the regulation and influence the fact that when you buy a house, you must also ask for a certificate of compliance for the roof. In that way, you create jobs that are self-sustainable. Because you'll keep on growing your roofers. At the end of the day, guess what happens? You make it attractive for women to come in and participate. Because remember, the workplace is in your house. It's nowhere else. In the industries, commercial banks, retailers, there's always a roofer on the roof every minute in this country.
I love that.
So there's an opportunity for us to go in there.
Thank you so much, Mom Juliet. I like that. I'm going to use that. There's always a roofer on the roof. I like that. Osmodieke, I'm going to come through to you, and I think let's pick up exactly where she left off about legislation, right? We can't talk market access without talking about regulations and legislation. And I know that BBCBE prides itself in influencing the procurement legislation. What is it that we could do in order to enhance market access? What is it that BBCBE is doing in order to advance and influence the market access through legislation and regulation?
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you for this opportunity. Honorable Minister, all protocol observed, fellow women, different organizations, thank you so much for this opportunity. The Black Business Council in the Built Environment is an apex organization that leads transformation. We are an advocacy organization, 18 years old, also formed by one of the ministers, and Tatetula's Nesi, at that time. And it was he was really saying, you're coming here to government, individually, and it doesn't assist. We need to integrate resources. We need to have one voice. And as much as we have member organizations like SAWIC that's here, we have its contractors, its consultants, its other partners in the value chains. You've got your event organizers, even there. You've got your lawyers, you've got insurance brokers. So it's a huge organization. And yes, you are correct, Tammy. We are influencing a policy. We have actually members in various boards of agencies, of human settlements, and all others. But what we have picked up is that sometimes government is over-regulating. We were sitting in one stakeholder engagement meeting with the CIDB and NHBRC, and we said, we can't have a situation where you've got a contractor having to get licensed, and in NHBRC, it's process, it's policy, it's money, it's time, and it's red tape. And then you go to CIDB, it's a similar process. You're literally saying, no, you can't. It's demotivating, but we don't even have money for those things. We don't have time. So I think one of the things that really the ministry has to look at is the fact that we are over-regulating. It's the same agencies of government, but we are over-regulating. But at the same time, I think we've created a lot of vehicles, and we need to see and check, take stock and say, after 28, 29 years, are they still relevant? One of the things that we also talk about is that the people that are in departments that create regulation, we need to check who they are. They are still the same people who were there over 28, 29 years ago, before democracy, who are still putting in systems and policies that are not favorable for black business, to transform. And the reality is that we're also looking only at participation. Minister touched on that yesterday. I was in a residential and property summit, and I said to people, the reality is that I'm not sure if we will transform, because we're looking at the crumbs. When you look at the entire value chain of construction, and I don't even want to say construction, look at what built environment is. The drivers of the economy are basically human settlements, water and sanitation. You're talking energy, mining. So Minister, your competence or mandate cuts across all. ICT has infrastructure in it. There's building there. So it's built environment is broad. But what are women saying? That's why you see SAWIC says SAWIC and BE, because built environment is broad. It's entire, and we want to participate in that, the market access. We've got one young lady who develops bricks out of plastic. She's all over the world, but human settlement can say, we want to give you a take off from our human settlement, RDPs or social housing. She's stranded. So I'm saying, what are we doing? We've got all these regulations. It's enough. Let's go back and check, are these regulations assisting us, propelling our black business to actually access the market? Are we doing that? And that's what we are saying as Black Business Council in the built environment. We can't anymore. And one last thing from my side is that I was looking at the net worth of property, which is over trillions, private property. You look at that, which is of government, including public works, it's not even 6%. So I'm asking, look at the value chain of construction alone. 60% is land and manufacture, and the material. Who owns those bitumen? Who owns those plants? And plant. We are nowhere there. That's 60% of the money within construction. And then you're left with 40%. Your labor you share, even with the same white, WBHOs. So why are you there? We're only fighting for business. Why we are sitting, and I think contractors must be honest. You are nowhere in the professional services. You are fighting for 10%. We need to be deliberate and intentional in this transformation.
Okay.
I was saying to someone, transformation is, and I will borrow the words of the late Minister Steve Chwet. He says, you must exert force and show direction. And I'm confident with the current minister. I've worked with her and I know what she can do. I'm not buying her face.
So let me stick with you, my dear, and let's have a very courageous conversation now. So when you say we must check the people who are there and the people, if it's going to allow market access, who's this we? Because we have to come up with a solution, right? So what's your suggested solution? Because we is very open-ended.
As we sit here, we've got different stakeholders, deliberate stakeholders, not talk shops. We need to come out of this INDABA summit with a task team that says, we don't have time. If we're not going to be careful, democracy is leaving us next year. It's a fact. We've been holding power for 29 years. We can't say that we don't own land. We don't own plants. We don't own a beach. Like I said, mines. We don't own anything. But yet we're saying for 28 years we have power. We're not having any power. We can't have banks. In my other life, I'm pursuing an infrastructure bank, Minister, and I need support. And yesterday when the chairperson of the portfolio committee said, there is this bank, I noted quickly and I said, so there is something that is common there. We're looking at crumbs, and every stakeholder must be able to, from today until March, International Women's Day, say this is what we have achieved. We need to be deliberate and say, in our budget as government, 40% is nothing. When I was in Northwest, I was the chief of staff, 3 premiers in 3 years. It's record. And I was leading women issues. I was leading the Women's Charter review. And I did a research with provincial treasurer, and I said, let me check how much was spent on women. And human settlements then in the Northwest had 51%, 2021, 2022 financial year. So you can't say you can't be deliberate. Okay. When I left Public Works last year, now in March, we had adopted a policy that says, that made sure that 40% minimum goes to women. So there's no problem in set aside. Your strategic plan and operational plan needs to speak to those issues. You must say in this budget, if your budget is 5 billion, 1 billion or 2 billion, it's this contractor development and this program. So it's only women that apply in that tender, nothing else.
Okay, we got you. Okay, fantastic. Let's keep it moving. Do we have any questions in the audience? Do we have any questions? While they give the microphone, I'm going to come to you, Ma'am Clara, and ask you this question. Perhaps also what we need to define is, what is market access? What is that?
According to me, market access is when I am given an opportunity by human settlement to deliver a project. Like, I was excited 2 days before. The people that were traveling with me, they know about this. Then you are awarded a project as an imaging company. Say, for instance, you are grade 2, grade 1, grade 3, not even grade 4 at this level. Then after that, you'll have to sit down and do your planning on how are you going to deliver this responsibility that you are given by any department. Then delivery of the project, it's about market access. Firstly, you must get resources. And firstly, you have marketed your company already, and you are where you are because of the market access. That you do online, that you do in compliance, that you do either way. Then here is something on the table. Then I need to make sure that I make this company proud by delivering what I've been mandated to do. And how are you going to do that? Okay. By getting access for funding. That's one of the things that we are struggling on. Then again, there is this challenge in South Africa that I've made in my notes, that we have a challenge of not providing adequate housing at times. And now some of these are done because of the market access. And the other thing that we are struggling on here is affordability. Affordability is one of the challenges that we are encountering as women. Because you can have whatever that you are given, but if you can't afford to deliver the mandate, then it's a problem.
Okay. And
the regulatory systems, I think my CEO here, because we are a member organization, founder members of the PPCPE, she has said it a lot, that women are struggling with capacity. Women are struggling with resources. And we are expected to be seen as people that are there. We cannot be. We will still remain on the 14% that we are still having as women in the value chain.
Got it.
We will not grow up until the people that are giving us these jobs. Women Settlement has your SHRA, there's NHFC, there is lots of the organizations or the institutions that works under human settlements. But at times, we don't get what we want from those institutions. And we will remain on the 40% set aside that we are instructed by the president of the country to get from these departments. Yes, they will give us, but we are not yet there. Then after receiving the 40% set aside, we need to be supported by the same institutions in making sure that we deliver as women. Are we there, Tammy? For now, we are not yet there. I think it's true that the minister is doing a lot in making sure that she delivers on the mandate of the government. The policies are there, drafted by this government. Everything is there. The only thing that we need to do is to implement the programs of the government as these women, so that when we implement those programs, then the 29 years that was mentioned next to me will be history. But if we don't have resources, we can't even go out and say, here I am, I'm marketing myself. Because now they are there. Yesterday we were talking here to DPSA and the Net Bank and so on. I even asked them a question. How do you rate women in terms of these credit applications? Because without money, you can't deliver a project. So what I'm saying is that women, Minister, are willing to deliver on the mandate of the government. But women, at the same time, they deserve to be empowered and taken seriously. The 40% set aside that we are speaking about, yes, we appreciate, but it is not yet there. And in order for us to be taken seriously and to be known, more especially the women in the built environment, we need to be supported by the institutions that are working under your department and supporting them by coming straight to us as women and check if what is it that we need to be assisted on. And I've been talking to the incubator programs.
Can I allow time for questions?
Incubator programs, that will be my plea for SAWIC and PE women. If human settlement can assist us by doing the incubator programs so that we empower these women at that level. And in empowering these women, we make sure that after you have done the programs with them, then you allocate houses according to the number of people that you have been identified or that you will be identifying. I think we need nothing else but jobs and support from human settlement.
Okay. Look, I can tell the passion, and it's one of those conversations that I think we could have for 4 days flat without even a comfort break. But I just want to open up the floor for a question. There was a question here. Yes, let's take your question.
Good morning, Zimbogoto.
I'm going to ask that we keep it as succinct as quick as possible.
I'm Mobile Ndimande. I've worked so many heads, number of years, but today I'm Sawisof South African women in spectrum and optic fiber. I really love what BBCPE is advocating. How the resolution, how, when, who is going to implement that. Before we leave, dear Honorable Minister, we need to have that tax team that involve all the trades within the human settlement. But BBCPE need to then put the timelines, because after May 2024, this easy process wouldn't be there. And access to market is to inclusive economic growth. We are nowhere. How, BBCPE? How? How are we going to be included in the economy if the implementation on the ground is not there on 40%? 40% is in paper. For how many years? In 2005, when we were doing, I think Utlara mentioned, Sawik mentioned this as a footnote, when we were doing 200 million project, it must be announced so that white people, men, can come and say, we want to partner with women, because the minister has declared a war and said 500 million as of today is allocated to this group of women. Without that, we can't access to market. And the value chain is very important. So in the human settlement, you need a tower. You need women that are going to do the trench for fiber and to understand it. And for the past 5 years, we have done that in fiber. Sakane has been doing fiber. I've been doing maintenance of the towers, the antennas. Women are not there. I think I'm the only one for the past 5 years in the all networks of South Africa. And today, we are saying, Minister, declare a war in figures, not a war saying women can do it. A war in figures, 500 million assigned.
Thank you so much for that comment. I think you're just adding on to what, obviously, Mudiahi was saying about the task team. We've got more questions. There we go. Yes, if there's a microphone there.
Good morning again. It's me from yesterday. I'm so grateful to see Mrs. Lorraine. From the last meeting when I saw her, she was saying to us as women, you need not only to be just a contractor, but you need to specialize. And when I came out of that, I said, you know what? I'm already training in plumbing. I might as well specialize it also in plumbing. So my question is, once you have gotten yourself and you have gotten yourself accredited, how do you access the market? I'm not only looking at human settlement. I think my question is to you, Mrs. Lorraine, and also Umama from Prawa, to say, not only in the public sector, but how did you do it to penetrate, even to go to insurances, to go through to all those places? Because we are applying, shame. We are filling our forms in NetBank. NetBank was also here. I filled my form to say, can I please come in? I haven't received anything from them. You call the call centers, they're taking you up and down. Nobody knows where exactly you were going to get the market. So, ngithi sicela ukungena nathi, kungena kanjani?
Re kopa o kene le rona. Ho kenwa jwang?
Can I answer?
Yes, please.
Because Nomasonto called me out there. So what we do as South African Women Plumbing and Trades is that we do capacity building programs. We do skills development. We do entrepreneurial skills for women in the space. And when we create our programs, our takeoff at the end is always access to market. So last year we worked with Momentum Insure. I knocked on that door for almost 10 months, but they gave me what I wanted. And what we said to them was that we're going to train up these women. At the end of the day, they need access to your market. And that's what we've done. The ladies, the 10 ladies that were in our program have all been onboarded by Momentum Insure. One of my others, thank you, one of our other partners is Old Mutual as well. And they are opening access to market to women across the country, women that have gone through our programs. Because what we found is that as much as you are knocking on that door, there are certain nuances that you don't understand. And there are certain things that when you're working for the insurance sector, there's a way that things have to be run. And that is what we capacitize you, that you, at the end of the day, you don't fall flat on your face. Because the problem is that as a woman, like we said, you're already 10 steps behind. And hence why when we do our programs, we call them the ACE programs. We got Activate, Catalyst, and Elevate. Because we want to take you at the different stages of your business. And this is not only just for tradeswomen, but women in the construction space as a whole. We are also looking, we have a lot of things that we do is about making sure that when we access that door for you and we give you the key, you need to make sure that you thrive on the other side. There are other partners that we are looking at. We are looking at Sun International as one of our other access to market partners. So we're not looking at just this in the private sector, in the public sector, but we're looking at private sector because we know how hard it is. And we understand that you have to have a certain thing that hooks them in the beginning, but also they need to understand that it's not about the fact that you're going to put this woman, you're going to give her a job for the first month and you forget about her. And hence why we have to make sure that when you get there, you excel.
You know, you say something quite valid, and I've heard this quite often coming out now, because we often hear this term, a seat at the table. We need to get a seat at the table. And somebody once said, so once you get the seat at the table, do you know what to do at that table? It's important that when those opportunities are opened, you also thrive once you've been given that opportunity. I think that's a very valid point to make. We've got a question. There's a lady there in white. Can somebody please take her hand's been up for the longest time. Can we go to the lady in white right here? Yep, you can take yours for now.
Okay. Thank you so much to our speakers. We are indeed encouraged. My question is to the women in plumbing and women in roofing structures. How do you see this collaboration? Our president mentioned something about the fact that we're doing brick and mortar. And these are all part of the value chain within the construction industry. So how do you see us partnering with the people that are doing the actual building and these trades that you build, you're bringing on board? And how do you see government supporting that? What's your vision with regards to the structure? Or must we come to you as individuals? That's my first question. And my second question is to BBCBE. Ma'am, we have a couple of people that are in the manufacturing, and you alluded to a lady that is doing IBT with plastic and all so forth and so on. But how do we then change this trajectory? Because there's a gentleman, for example, a young man who is manufacturing paint. He opened a paint shop. He's been victimized by the people that have been in the industry for the longest of time. And as we're sitting, he had to close off his factory. But all his equipment and everything is there. He's put in so much research. How do we then bring these people in? How do we, when government is saying to us, look at the full value chain, and yet we're not getting support from them, you know, we're expecting that when you say, Tandi, do a paint manufacturing, and then you will say, okay, I will at least say, suggest, or in my specification, I will specify the paint from this person. But that is not happening. How are we then going to penetrate a market that is so long male-dominated by white? Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, great. So I'm going to come to you, please, Ma'am Juliet. Do you want to answer the first question? Please proceed.
Okay. I think maybe let's take this opportunity to also compliment the minister, guys. Let's just give her a round of applause. And I'm going to tell you why. She came in, the first thing she did is to change the regulation, right? The regulation is looking better. I'll give you an example. PPRA, one of their tasks is to license, is to work with services, SETA, it's in the Act, and make sure that there's throughput of artisans. That's a market right there. So the person who's supposed to account here is the CEO of PPRA, to say, considering this value chain and the power of this regulation that you have, what is the plan? So how we're going to collaborate is use the very acts that are in human settlements. This is a 30 billion rand market. We don't even need to go to the banks to look for money because we have 30 billion rands in our hands. But we need leadership that's gonna start and say, now we must execute as per the value chain of this sector. So the mindset must begin to change. We want leadership that comes and says, we will allocate in our strategy this percentage of land to be acquired by women. We need those decisions. So if you look at the APPs of human settlements, they don't articulate those strategies. So it has to start with defining the strategy. Yesterday, I think the DM also talked about MOUs. As PRAWA, we do not want an MOU that is not aligned to an APP target. If we are going to sign an MOU, it must talk to that regulation of PPRA. It must talk to SHA. Let me give you another example. In SHA, we are creating STIs. When we started with the SEED program, which the minister supports, it was about enterprise development. One of the key things we said is that the contracts that are signed by STIs are not alluding to designated groups. It's a problem. So leadership needs to start translating these regulations into strategies. That's where we need to start. And we have an opportunity now because it's before September, before the money is taken by Treasury. Leadership, board members who are here, the CEOs must start inviting us because we are industry experts. We understand the challenges and opportunities. That has never happened in human settlements. So we are saying we are available. Those APP, before they are signed off, must be signed off by stakeholders of women groupings so that the value chain from land acquisition to throughput of artisans into the market. We are a market as we sit here. 30 billion rands is us.
Okay.
One of the things that I did for this human settlement, because I led the facilitation of SEED, which is a program we implemented. I mean, all these things that you see Sitisho doing emanates from there. I mean, let's congratulate them. Today we're talking 40%. You know, before we didn't even talk about it. So we need to take it step by step. The next step, Minister, we want MOUs that have been verified by us. We want to start seeing targets that talks 3 zeros. We are tired of 300, 400. We want to see throughput. It's a 30 billion rand sector. Let it match the outcomes and the targets that we need to achieve.
Thank you so much. I know that you had the second question. I'm going to ask her to do that as part of a closing because I need to wrap this panel up. So I'm going to take that one more question and then we're going to do closing remarks and then I'm going to ask you, Media, to just, when you do your closing, just answer that.
Thank you very much. I'm Rose Molokwani from Fed Up. I've been listening to all the discussions. They are so interesting. And then me as an ordinary leader from an informal community, I ask myself, how do I fit in all these discussions? Because now I'm dealing with the disadvantaged, the vulnerable, the poor women, who are also doing all what you are saying, but informally, supported by their Smallanyana NGO. I was not able to ask questions to CEDA and Nedbank, DBSA, because they are always talking about collateral if you want to get money. And then when I talk about the poor person, where does he go in to get that collateral? So how are we being covered
to be supported to make sure that our people get access to these financial institutions. I was listening to the lady from the plumbing, Memoi. I wanted to check with you on how can we get involved with what you are doing, because in our communities where we think that we are staying in townships, urban areas, I'm sorry to say it directly that shit is flowing on the streets. And then how do you have any chance to engage with municipalities who are leaving our infrastructure damaged, old infrastructure without maintenance? And then we wish to see something happening, or we do things on our own, but no one listens to the poor because they think the poor can think. And then I really need you guys to come down and not floating on top. Come down, let's join hands together. I know that we are all praising the minister. She's working very hard together with the DM. But the political will is there. The implementation process, I think there's a very big gap between the politicians and the officials. People that we should be talking to directly right now are the officials from the department.
Thank you so much.
The last thing, yesterday the DM was saying the officials are so proud, very proud, to say you will come and go. You find us here, you will leave us here. Meaning that even the women who are organized will go to the office through this door and go out through that door, and we won't get anything. When we talk about changing of mindset, it should be from the officials more than from the politicians.
Thank you.
Let's create the space to engage to each other and listen to the women, because they can help to come up with better solutions. You can hear all these women who are sitting here. They've got the vision. They've got the way of doing it. But please, politicians from Department of Human Settlement, we know we are the one to make you, I'm sorry to say, getting salaries, but please work with us, because we can change the world to become a better world for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'm going to first start with the question. Mudia, please, if you could answer that second question. I think you had spoken about a lady, who had done the bricks and plastic, and then they asked you a question. In doing that, can you also just wrap up? I need you to keep it as succinct as possible, because we have to move on to the next panel. We are obviously wanting to hear everybody's point of view, but elevator pitch answer.
Thank you. My input in terms of the manufacturing, there's a lot of programs like your DTIC that speaks to the black industrialist. It's dying a slow death. But if that program can be revived and properly monitored and implemented in every sector, it would work. The security of the state has been compromised, Minister. In terms of, like you are saying, people are victimized because they are threatening the financial wealth of other people. And it's like your construction mafias, your collusions of your banks for us not to access money and all of that. So I think it's more a bigger problem where it must be taken into the security cluster, at the level of the EAs where the ministers are, but also the level of your DGs forum. So it's things that must be deposited at another level, not just us resolving it here. It also has to be part of performance agreements of both EAs and AAs from where I'm coming from. there's a lot of abandoned properties, especially of government, which I think, in terms of the district development model, it could actually assist people like that are manufacturers, and so that the security of where they are, they get assistance and they get subsidized in terms of those factories. For an example, I know there's a lot of factories that are abandoned in Garankuwa, in Mokwase, all of those places. But in conclusion, I need to, from BBCBE's point, speak to the fact that, when negotiations were done in terms of democracy, women were not included. The negotiations spoke more of democracy, freedom of the people, but the issues of women are still not moving. And for me, it's a challenge when you look at the Women's Charter. We need to go back and check that. There's still a lot of victimization in this space. Even as we sit here, we're not necessarily even having a voice as women. Or we can have a voice, but we still connive with men outside. I mean, BBCBE, I know what I'm talking about. We are being divided as women. And I think we as women also need to be deliberate and intentional and stop fighting each other. The APP targets, we've got, BBCB has a lot of MOUs, 30. You've said a lot, but they have not moved at all. All the agencies of human settlements, let's go back and do what is right. Sustainable development goals. I see a vision of a green economy, a green from the built environment. We cannot continue to do construction in the built environment without taking care of nature, without taking care of our people, including the lady that spoke to people on the ground. And I think we need to integrate that, promote private partnerships, as well as also ensure that domestic and global access to market, DTIC, SARS, ports, harbors, we get access to that market. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So in closing, I think, Mam Clara, I want to ask the question and just maybe summarize what we heard from the last person that asked us a question. How do we not just fight for market access, but give access to everybody who has the capability? I mean, she's indicated the conversations are happening here, and there's people who can implement down there. Where do they even start? How do we get down to, for lack of a better word, the grassroots of everything?
Thank you very much, Tammy. Where I'm seated, I'm a bit emotional about the lady from FedUp's presentation, because she spoke about people that are suffering on the ground. And she further said, where does she feature in all these things that we're discussing here? I think our government that we are having today is the government of the people. And if they are the government of the people, political heads are there to oversee the work that is done by the officials. Minister, I always ask myself questions, Jorge, if it was not because of this democracy and the government that we are in today, it can be really kokai. And the answer is, we appreciate the government that we are having, but at the same time, part of the things that are happening on the ground, they don't favor you as political heads. Monitoring and evaluation is very important. And it's not all of them that are not doing the work, Minister. As an organization, we communicate a lot, Tammy, with Department of Human Settlements officials. Majority of them, they take their job seriously. But there's also majority that doesn't take their job seriously. I want to say it on records. Your DDG, Minister, on behalf of SAWIC, and the people like your city shows, Bobonisile, Sylvia, and others. I know most of the people in your department, and Abovusi. Those people, they do their work, pack the money and go back home. Then it takes us back to the statement that was raised by the lady, where I said I'm a bit emotional, Tammy. And I think in government, you have three spheres of government. You have local government, you have provincial government, you have national. That on its own, it means our government, your strategies and everything that you have planned is in order. The problem is the implementation on the ground. Okay. How do you reach to those people, Tammy? The local government departments or municipalities, it is their responsibility to make sure that women that are suffering on the ground are taken care of. There is SAWIC that you can access online. There is Women for Plumbing. There is roofing, women that are busy now with the roofing and so on. Those people can be trained by the same departments or by the same, your NHBRCs and so on. They can group these people on the ground. I have a picture of a woman in the morning, also puma ngaphandle ngegown, angayazi ukuthi makenzeni in this government of today. All of my policies that are very good. Because mina, I don't want to see myself tomorrow, who are in the light. The only thing that we need is for us to get people that are taking their jobs seriously on the ground.
Thank you.
In closing, in the Northern Cape, we have leadership that is led in SAWIC by Mepadisho. And I think that lady who spoke from Fed Up, she also has members in this province. I think what I will request is for you to maybe the SAWIC together with the lady, just to sit down and check if how best can they assist these people on the ground. And they must go and knock to the departments and to those municipalities, Minister. And my request here was to see the MEC of Human Settlement before I leave. Because as women at provincial level, their mandate is to knock in your doors as MECs and sit down and strategize on how best can you assist these women. Rona at national level, we will deal with Kubai together with her office. But they don't get joy in your offices. Because when they write emails, there are no responses, Tamuzan Khaled and Pitu. They don't get responses when they write emails from some of them. Just to acknowledge receipt, it means a lot to a woman who's hungry on the ground. If Ukubai, I sent her a message, just typical message, to say, good morning, Minister. I get what's about, I'm getting there. Then she will say, good morning, President. What is wrong with the MECs to do that? Some of the MECs, they don't respond to our women. They don't take them serious. Letters are piling in their offices, requesting for meetings so that they can come and sit down and talk about the MOUs that we are requesting. But there are no responses, Tamuzan Kanal and Sugagote. Originally, Eastern Cape, the boy and Hlale Gauteng, these are Northern Cape. Fast. Our government minister, you have a lot of backlog on the ground. And I remember one time when I wanted to take the conference to Limpopo, your officials said, President, Limpopo is doing very well in terms of delivery on the ground. There are provinces that are behind that we can look at in making sure that we go and preach l'Evangeli in those provinces. But if our chairpersons of the provinces of SAWIC are not taken seriously by your MECs on the ground, then we are far from the delivery, service delivery in South Africa. So I think in my closing, we have MOUs, about more than 4 MOUs. But it is true that at times you'll be in the second year without seeing no progress, communicating. Trainings, yes, we receive a lot of trainings at SAWIC, and we want to appreciate that. But empowerment is not about trainings. It's about the 40% set aside that is there. Can we see it? Then Nobile proposed something. She's also a member of SAWIC in the Gauteng province. She proposed something about a task team. I think as we are seated here, Minister, we are here so that tomorrow we see the resolutions of this session. Maybe the resolutions will be presented in the session that will take place in March 8th, that was announced by the Minister. In those resolutions, in between the resolutions, presentations, something has to happen.
Got it. Okay. Thank
So
you.
we want delivery, we want the resolutions, and the recommendations that are made, the department must take them into consideration. Because having a task team of all these stakeholders that are seated here, together with the office of the minister, that on its own will bring progress before 2024. 2024 is around the corner, and we don't want to be confused
I have to wrap it
as
up,
women.
Claire.
So it delivers, service delivery, ma'am. I spoke about MOUs, I spoke about
I have to
resolutions.
wrap it up, ma'am.
and what
I
I
will get in
want is that-
trouble.
I want to thank you, Kensani, for the job well done of making us to be where we are today in this gathering. But we are not here just to support you physically. We are here for you to know that as women on the ground, we need your support. You support us, but there's still more to be done in your department.
Thank you so
and
much.
as SAWIC, we appreciate the gathering, and together in 2024, on the 8th of March, we want the resolutions with implementations thereof.
Okay, great.
Submit.
Thank you. You're going to get me in trouble, Ma'am Clara, you know? So we have to wrap this up, but what I'd like to encourage is, please, for you, Lorraine, to speak to the lady about some of the issues she had in terms of plumbing in the local areas. Can I task that to you to do outside of the panel? Is that okay? And I just want to give you a round of applause. Please, one more round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much. That's Ma'am Juliet, Os Mudirhi, Ma'am Clara, and Os Lorraine. A round of applause for them, please. Thank you. We're now going to move on to the last panel. This one I'm going to have to really speed through. I think I allowed the first panel to go on because we weren't just touching on market access. If you listened very carefully, we're touching on quite a number of things that will come up as well in the second one. Please, could I invite to stage Dr. Ntoli from the Council of Geoscience, also Ms. Mokhati, Regional Manager of South African Weather Services. I've also got Ms. Mudau, that's Ngaledzani, Acting Chief Sector and Business Developer from SANSA, and also Ms. Rodriguez from the Griqua Nation. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to have to stick us to time because some people have to fly out and we need to make sure that people catch their flights on time. So this one we're going to keep as tight as possible, but as filled with information as possible. This is our last panel for the 2 days, and we want to speak about innovative and alternative building technologies. I love that we have quite a vast representation of the built environment here with us. Let me start with you, Dr. Ntoli. Let's just start with the geoscience of everything. The minute people hear innovative, they think spaceships and rockets and all sorts of things. What is innovative within this environment?
Right, thanks, Tammy. I think, let me just start with explaining what the Council for Geoscience is and what we do. So we are a mandated institution under the DMRE, and our mandate is to promote research into the gathering of geoscientific information. And we're also a custodian of geoscientific information in the whole country. And when it comes to the built environment, geoscientific information is important because you need to understand the land that you are developing on. You need to know if you are prone to seismic activity, so are you going to have earthquakes? You need to understand if you'll have landslides, and this information helps you to de-risk the investment. So if you're looking into innovation, we have multiple projects that look into that. So first of all, we have the microzonation projects, which look at innovative ways to identify the susceptibility of the land to different types of risks. But we also look at where we can get access to new materials that can be used in construction. So materials such as basalt fiber that are coming up as exchange for steel and alternatives for pipes as well. So our job is to map the country and see if there are ways where we can acquire this material and therefore assist in development. But we also need innovative ways to be able to identify where your water resources are, where your energy resources are, because for you to have a sustainable development, you need to upkeep it with other alternative natural resources.
I'm going to borrow from the word natural and also resources. It's with no doubt, Lebogang, that we see that, during, there's natural disasters that are happening. Climate change is not just a buzzword, it's a thing. It's an actual thing. How is the South African Weather Services now going to help in the building environment so that people are very well aware, so that people are very well aware, how to go about even building projects, taking the weather into consideration?
Yes, thank you. Let me start by touching on our mandate, which we are the authoritative voice for severe weather warnings in South Africa. So to unpack that, it means in terms of weather warnings for the public, to give an example would be if there's a severe thunderstorm approaching Roodepan, then we are mandated to issue weather warnings to enable the public to be able to take the necessary precautions. But we also do the same for the marine sector within the South African waters. This will be for the ports and shipping activities. And the same for aviation space. You just mentioned some people will be rushing for their flights. So for the pilots to plan their route in terms of where to navigate, where the storms are, that is dependent on our information that we're feeding into them. But coming to the building environment, our services are actually cross-cutting. But in terms of the building sector, we provide information as far as the climate change projections, which currently we're looking at in the next 30 years for South Africa. We're expecting warming, which means increase in temperatures, and that could affect or would influence the choice of the building materials that are to be considered. And also we're looking at increase in extreme weather events, such as your flooding. We have published research that shows that tropical cyclones will be trekking south, which means the risk of tropical cyclones making landfall over the KZN region is quite high in the next 30 years. Now, those that will be doing land development or site development that you touched on, that will be the consideration to be looked into as to now that in the next 30 years, this is what we're expecting in terms of the weather. We're expecting high temperatures in some areas. We're expecting more flooding in certain areas. What are the considerations as part of your development? So our drive is to actually make sure that we empower and build weather-smart cities, weather-smart communities that can take that information into account and make informed decisions. And I think the minister touched on yesterday in her address the importance of training when it comes to building materials, innovative building technologies. And this is where we are saying women should not be left behind in making the right decisions. When they are going to develop any land, they need to be in the know of what would be happening in the next 30 years. We don't want to find a situation where in the next 30 years, bridges have collapsed and fingers are being pointed at people, why did the bridge collapse? Yet it could be people were not informed what are the hazards or what will be the hazards at the time.
Thank you so much. And I think it's quite an important thing to note, right? To say, once you've gotten the funding, once the project's got a thumbs up, there's so much more to consider. Things not like, I mean, a lot of people listen to what will the weather be, rather than what will the weather actually do to whatever you're involved in. So I think that's quite a valid point. Let me come through to you, please, Nalizani, to say, what are you doing? You okay? What are you doing to support the sustainability in the human settlements development? Because sustainability is cutting across.
Thank you, Program Director. So I am from the South African National Space Agency. So we do have a space agency in South Africa. A lot of people know about NASA, so we are SANSA. So we are mandated to promote the use of space for societal benefits. So we have 4 programs. One looks at engineering, space engineering. This is where we're building the space instruments, satellites, and supporting infrastructure. We also have a program that is looking at ground infrastructure. So this is looking at making sure that South Africa is able to acquire images and also facilitate communication. We also have Space Science Directorate, which is looking at space weather, because it is important that as much as we are here on Earth, we also are aware of what is happening around our spaces, around the sun, the solar system. And I come from Earth Observation Directorate. This is where we use satellites to acquire images over our spaces. So to do effective planning, we need to know where are the settlements. What type of settlements are they? Where are the informal settlements? How are they growing? And also, if we only rely on census information, which we get every 10 years, which is mostly used during planning, it's not enough, because a lot would have happened. So we are mapping using machine learning technologies. We are mapping where the human settlements are. We are tracking them over time. Where are they growing? Where are the informal settlements? Where are they located in terms of vulnerability to disasters, in terms of access to services? We are looking at even going to the rural areas. We are looking at where are the settlements, where are the services, where are the schools? Because if we are not having an understanding in terms of where the settlements are, where people live, how do we plan effectively? So this is where we contribute as the South African National Space Agency in terms of ensuring that we provide that information that tells us where the settlements are, but as also alluded by the Deputy Minister yesterday, she indicated that it's not just about building a house. We must also look at, do we have access to green infrastructure, as like trees? Do we have parks? And so forth. So we are able, using the technology that we have access to, we are able then to look at where the settlements are, and then also advise in terms of where the settlements should be built to ensure that new settlements are built in areas where they'll be able to access, the services, economic opportunities. Most of the low-cost housing, for example, they are far away from the economic opportunities. So we are working with government, we are working with the Department of Human Settlements in terms of helping them see where the settlements are and also what are the services that are required. I mean, even from yesterday's discussion, there were also talks about, accessibility of this CEDA and other infrastructures that are supposed to support businesses. If you do not know where people are, where would you put them? Yeah. Where would we establish these services? So that's where we come in terms of supporting the municipalities or the departments when they're planning in terms of what information they need to take into account when they plan. We need to take care of, look at environment as well. So with satellite images, then we are not limited. We don't have any boundaries. We are able to look at where people are, the infrastructure, but also the environment. There are many diseases that are also induced by the environment where people live. For example, heat, surface heat. It is affecting a lot of poor communities, of course, because they don't have access to cooling facilities, aircons, and all that. So these are some of the information that we can also derive from satellite images and then support in terms of planning. Maybe I can leave it there.
Yes, the microphone is definitely going the right way. If we can please also start getting the hands for the questions in the audience. We're going to go quite quickly into questions. So if you've got questions for, I already spot a hand right there in the corner. So if we can get a microphone going there. But in preparing for this panel, you taught me some things. And I started thinking, sometimes when we think of innovative or alternative building solutions, we're always thinking future. But some of these solutions were already created way in the past. We just need to continue them. And please, just for the benefit of the audience, can you give them just a background on the RAIDS techniques that you were talking about and how we can go back to history in order to better the future?
Thank you very much. Greetings, Honorable Minister. I want to say to our ladies, hey Tara, and Kaiches to all my Khoisan ladies, Kaiches Khoises, and Tawedes to all our royal houses and to our chiefs that are present. I want to greet also all the other cultural leaders that are present, because I'm a cultural leader amongst my people. My name is Rosemary Rodriguez Vasquez. I am the High Commissioner of the Griqua Aboriginal Nation. I am the right-hand more man, that's what my king introduces me as, to the king of the Griqua, of East Griqualand, and the eastern half of West Griqualand. And where we are standing currently was originally West Griqualand, and that was a sovereign nation, meaning we had our own government, our own military, we had our own currency, a gold standard currency, and we had our own techniques of building. The Griqua are one of the 5 major nations, 5 major Khoi and San nations. And for those who don't know, we are 48 sub-clans. So we're not a small minority in this country. Yesterday, the 2 gentlemen that interviewed me were from the Ngu, and the Kwechusan. And the Kwechusan, the language is on our coat of arms, Ikake Karachi. So that's just a little bit of history of who I represent. Minister, I want to thank you. I don't think you remember me, but in 2012, you helped us negotiate one of the biggest empowerment deals. So for the ladies that are sitting here, I like to say, I'm not the horse, I am the jockey. And Minister Kubai is a jockey. And we need more jockeys in this industry. People are saying, when you are going for funding, our women are struggling to get access to funding because they're treating you like you're the horse.
nkosikazi asase aphela amandla nkosikazi
Okay, fantastic. I'm not on. Okay, fantastic. Do you want to continue with your feedback? Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. It was so beautiful being serenaded so early in the morning.
You all look so beautiful, by the way, for the stage. So at the end, we're going to do round 2 again. Fantastic.
I just want to pick up straight off from where I left off with Minister Kubai when she helped us negotiate one of the biggest empowerment deals, because that has led on to other projects. So I'm very confident with the minister now being in human settlements that we're going to see some changes, some changes that are going to affect a lot of our women in business. From the WUSA project, which was 250 million, the woman owned 51% shareholding in one of the biggest bunker deals in our country, meaning 51% belongs to women that now refuel all the ships that come into South Africa. From there, we've negotiated bulk storage, bulk fuel storage, and as of June, the Griqua Aboriginal Nation negotiated a 500 million litre diesel deal with the Botswanan government and with Dipswana Oil, which does all the mining in Botswana. So I'm saying when you've got a jockey in the seat, things are going to happen. My mandate as the High Commissioner of the Griqua Aboriginal Nation is the restoration of my history, my culture, my nation, the dignity of my people, access to economy. And this is what my king and me do when we travel around the country, is that we try to facilitate seats for our women and our people at those tables. We kick down those doors because, ladies, the times of asking politely are gone. I want to talk about the innovative systems, and I'm very thankful. Ladies, I don't know if you can see what I'm wearing. What is around my neck is dacha. Dacha, cannabis. Cannabis is the Lani English name, and remember, English is not the mother of my tongue. So this is dacha. When the Dutch and the Portuguese and the French came to our country, they tried to legislate the use of dacha. And dacha and the reeds is what was used in the construction of our houses, of the huts that the Khoi and the San lived in. There were reasons why it was used. It's one of the strongest materials. We knew this without someone going to a lab and telling us this. The structure of the huts was very specific. It was done because of the manner in which the structure was put together. And here's something else. The men went to war, the women built the houses. The men were the protectors, the women ran the industries, the agriculture. We built the houses. So this is not an industry where we should shy away from putting our foot in it. So I want to encourage our women, firstly, get in there, get to know the industry. If it's not your industry, learn about it. Find a woman that is more advanced than you. So if you're a CIDB 1, be adventurous. Go and get a CIDB 4 lady and nag her and follow her around. Let her become your coach. Make yourself invaluable to that woman and learn the industry. And speak with authority when you're at these engagements. I'm so tired of our women shying away. We are powerful, more powerful than we allow ourselves to be. Hey, tara, a tara. The word ta is strong, ra is woman. Hey, tara is not slang. It's kukun for greetings, strong woman. So I want us to learn that as Khoisan and as descendants of Khoisan. Everybody here, descendants of Khoi and San. Hey, tara.
Thank you, Hey Tara. No, I've heard something new from Hey Tara.
So the innovative building systems, the Griqua have got a church that was built in 1866 of compacted sand and grass. And it stood for 148 years without cracking, without falling. As of March this year, because of a very high rainfall, there was a minute crack. And it resulted in the watchtower of that building collapsed. But it stood for 148 years.
Sure.
That talks to the strength of the technique, the building technique.
Sure.
It was an innovation in itself.
Yeah.
We've currently signed a joint development agreement with the university in Italy that will be coming to come and help us with the development of hemp blocks. So like I say, hemp, cannabis, minister, and whoever else, it's dacha, guys. Stop trying to exclude the cultural people by talking about hemp. Hemp is a fancy word for dacha. There's different types of dacha. And the hemp, Sativa Fortura 75, we are testing it in some farms in the Eastern Cape. And we will be working very closely with the Italians on developing hemp blocks for building. For your information, people, we've got a lot of squatter camps in our communities. Hemp does not burn. It's fireproof. It keeps that building cool. So it's an old building technique, but it's just now a new method of utilizing it.
Yeah.
So the Koyan son used it in the buildings of the huts. So it's a mixture of reeds and what is around my neck. I wear this to remind me of who I am. This is ours. It was a cultural plant. And we must carry on using it, utilizing it. Let us not be intimidated to get into the cannabis hemp industry, ladies.
Thanks,
He has doors for us to get in. Let us knock and let us get in. We've also got a gentleman that plants potatoes for export. And we, as of this past weekend, my king and me had to split up. He was taking around the University of Nelson Mandela, and they visited some of our farms. We've got one farm that exports potatoes. He does 650 hectares of potatoes. For first choice, it's seed potatoes and your up-to-date potatoes. And we've negotiated a deal with McCain for the production of the potatoes.
Thanks, Rosemary.
We've also found that the use of the potato starch with sand is stronger than a cement block. So that's also another innovation that we are currently working on. Guys, we're doing this without funding. So I'm saying do not be afraid to go into that, the innovations, and look into the innovations. So potato starch and pineapple starch are two of the very, very strong compounds that are mixed with umhlabathi, guys. I want to be clear, with sand. Not with cement, with sand. And makes a block that is fireproof and is stronger than concrete.
Thanks, Rosemary.
So those are the two innovations. We've got other innovations, but I think in our question and answer, I'll address those.
Fantastic.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much. You can give her a round of applause, of course. There was a question there. Do we still have a question in that? Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Lillian Andreas. I'm from Carnarvon, the host town for the SKA. And my presentation is presented to the entire panel. You say at SKA, we use RFI materials to do the relevant infrastructure in most cases as a national key point. And now there's a second accolade to that, and that's the sandbox. And currently a tender has been issued for I think it's 206 kilometers for RFI fencing around the sandbox. Now, everything happened as per import. And I wish this conference or INDABA, under the leadership of the Minister and MEC FAS, to resolve that us women from that side should please be trained, including with the cannabis people, because Van Wyksvlei is a town that has been built for more than 100 years with similar material, so that we can be part of the mainstream in manufacturing for RFI material in Carnarvon on site. Because there's only one company there that does the spider web dishes, and that's Yera. And Yera is not even a South African-based company, as much as they do make use of our youngsters and youth there. But women, there's nothing, zero, absolutely. I thank you.
Thank you so much. I think similarly to the question that was asked yesterday, it needs to be directed to the correct people. So I'm making note, right, of your question. Thank you so much. Do we have another question in the audience? Okay, can we please get a microphone here in the front? But while we get the microphone there, I'm going to give you an opportunity to say some of the stuff that you wanted to touch on when it comes to geoscience.
Thank you very much. I think with regards to the built environment, hello? Oh, there we go. Yes, I think one of the things that I should not leave out with regards to built environment and the work that we do in this space is that for development that is meant to be on dolomitic land, which is quite a significant amount of land, particularly in the Gauteng area, it is a requirement by NHBRC for all the reports to be reviewed at the Council for Geoscience. So if you have any plans to be having development on dolomitic land, that's where you'd be sending your applications. And there are now considerations as to whether all the applications should be considered at the Council for Geoscience because the state of the land as we know it has evolved over time because of climate change and so on. It was said that a church that had been standing for such a long time has now finally cracked because of heavy rainfalls. So maybe it is a consideration whether we should not have all developments that are proposed be checked out so that we don't develop on compromised land. And also to ensure that you get hold of the data that is available. The data is available for free for anybody who would like to have it. We have a standout site, or you can go to data@geoscience.org.za so that you are able to make a wise investment and also consider when you want to develop in a certain area, other competing uses for that area. So you might want to develop where there's a mineral resource. You might want to develop where there's a protected area. And all this information is available and it will help you to make an informed and de-risked investment.
Thank you so much. Yes, you can clap for her. It's okay. It's okay. Thanks for the reminder that there are actually exhibitors outside, so please make sure that you're also visiting the exhibitors outside as well at their various stands. Of course, Geosciences, they have a stand there, so that you make sure you're not building on compromised land. We have time for one more question, so we'll do that question over there.
Thank you. I think the question is more from SASDA and the Geo one. It is very exciting to know that Human Settlement has partnered with the weather forecast and all that. We have Jesky, we have people dying, and why there is no declaration or that when we do these weather forecasts and awareness, it's going to be red, yellow weather, and you still keep the Jesky people where they are until today, if Human Settlement has partnered with you guys.
Okay, so I think, yeah, I think maybe you take it. Do you want to take it, Lebogang? And maybe do it with your closing remarks as well. I also want you to touch on it afterwards. That's why I was trying to see who can answer it. Maybe you take that question and then closing remarks as well.
Okay, thank you. I think I would probably respond partly because, partially, because I think it does overlap to another mandate of the disaster management. I don't think, so. But in terms of the weather forecast, let me say, for planning purposes, we have the modeling capabilities, forecasting capabilities, and the relevant expertise. We do issue our forecasts and warnings at least 7 days, up to 14 days on request. We even have seasonal forecasting. So what we do is when we have issued a warning, for example, of heavy rainfall, if there will be heavy rain that could result, you just mentioned that our new impact-based warning system, it talks about what the weather will do, not what the weather will be. Yeah. So what the weather will do, it means if we're issuing a warning of heavy rain, we could then say the heavy rain will result in flooded roads, flooding in informal settlements, because we acknowledge and recognize that there are informal settlements within our country for various reasons. So we would mention the impact that would occur when the weather happens. If it will be heat wave, then we'll mention what are the risks the heat wave conditions would result, or will pose threat to the health, and will highlight the vulnerable people that normally will be the elderly and your children. So in the event of heavy rain and flooding, we can advise what people should avoid to do. For example, if we're expecting bridges to be flooded, we will advise that people should avoid crossing or driving off flooded roads. However, we cannot evacuate people because that now becomes the mandate of disaster management. I think Cocta would speak to that, the evacuation and stuff, but we advise what are the actions that people should take in order to stay safe. And I think she has already mentioned some of the impacts in terms of weather. Just to note that more than 90% of disasters that are occurring in the world, and this is shown by research, are due to weather and climate related hazards. So that shows the importance of weather and climate and being in the know, and hence our drive is to actually build resilient communities, weather smart communities that will be able to understand, interpret, and our warnings and know what to do. So we have a national footprint. I just probably could not, I failed to acknowledge the presence of our office manager for Kimberley office. We have a national footprint in all the airports in the country. You'll find our offices. The reason for that is to ensure that there's visibility and access to communities. Communities should be able to access our offices, our information on awareness on what they need to do. So that we do, and we also partner with different departments, Cocta, especially municipalities in terms of awareness. So through that collaboration to make sure that we expand and increase knowledge about weather-related hazards and the precautionary measures that are to be taken. And for the building sector, we'll just encourage more consultation with us because weather affects them. If you're going to have any activity on a daily basis and there's going to be rain, it does affect their planning. So that information, we have it 14 days in advance. That could assist people in terms of their planning.
Thank you so much for that, because weather does affect humanity in one way or the other, in every way. Now, Lezani, maybe I can come through to you and you can also touch on that and also give us your closing remarks in touching on that.
Okay, thank you. So from SANSA's side, we do have models that show us, or which show us the areas that are likely to get flooded in case of heavy rains. So that is supposed to help us prepare. So it means that officials are supposed to then not allow people to stay in those areas. So we are not an implementer, so we derive the data and we make it available to decision makers. So unfortunately, then we still see a lot of settlements being built in flood-prone areas. And it's not just informal settlements, even high-class estates. There are some that are built in flood-prone areas. Yep. But of course, because of the infrastructure that is there, and also the type of the material and everything, then they are able to sustain it sometimes. But in informal settlements, then the building structures cannot stand. Yeah. So that's where we have issues there. So what we are trying to do, since we are observing this information from space, we want to collaborate with the communities, with the municipalities. Of course, we can only do that through partnerships with government departments because we are not implementers. Yeah. We are only able to provide the data. So if we start working with the people on the ground, the communities, we'll then be able to also even collect more information and also create awareness in terms of what it means to settle in certain places, especially for the informal settlement dwellers. So that's something that we are looking at also through the district development model, where we want to also create these small centers of information that can be used by decision makers there. And we want to collaborate with the communities to also help using ground earth observation technologies to collect some of the information that may support planning. So we will train graduates, we will train unemployed graduates, we will train youth, we will also partner with any NGO that is available so that we start collecting that information that is useful for planning, that authorities can also take into account when they plan. Maybe let me just finish by also touching on the opportunities for women. We do have Innovation Fund that is targeting black industry. Our industry is still very small, so we still need to develop. We don't have a lot of companies that are looking at the work that we are doing, remote sensing. We don't have a lot of companies that are building satellite components. So we do have some funds that are set to develop industry, but also for innovation, looking at also grassroots innovation. This is where we really want to go to the communities and see how we can partner with the communities. But also the small companies, I think from the discussions here, I mean, there are people who can do antennas, maintain antennas. I'm not really sure if you are aware that there are such opportunities, because we have a ground infrastructure full of antennas. They need to be maintained. I don't have that information in terms of how much we are like subcontracting black companies, but I was not even aware that there were black companies that are actually capable of that. So, I mean, we have such opportunities for companies to participate in our field as well. So I think the takeaway really is to say, if possible, we could get the database and then also just make sure we communicate where there are opportunities, because otherwise we don't have, we work with international communities, we work with the few companies that are wide owned, and we need to develop the industry. So a lot of learnings.
Thank you.
From our side.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think you're opening up information that some people don't know, but I'm going to challenge you to please also request the database post this, and then let's see. Because if we all get our hands dirty, then we'll move forward. So if, have you caught that ball, Ngalezan? Have you caught that ball? You request the database. Okay, great. Fantastic. Rosemary, closing remarks. Please, can we keep it as short as possible?
Okay. The lady that was speaking about the satellites, she raised a question about the Jukskei. Why do we still have that issue? And I agree with you. Why should we still in this day and age have people getting flooded every single year? Last year, March to April, KZN had one of the most horrific floods. We had 300 millimeters of rain in under 4 days. It led to the collapse of 8 blocks of flats in an area called Marion Ridge and KwaDebeka. In 4 weeks, we had no support from disaster management, human settlement, the municipality. We, as a community-based organization, were the first ones on the floor. I'm going to say this and I'm going to say it again. And ladies and gentlemen, we are working in silos where the department knew that we were going to get 300 millimeters of rain in 4 days. Housing, disaster management, health, and whoever you might have been in government, you should have been there. We should have been ahead of the curve. Not 4 weeks after people have lost their lives. We lost 300 people. We should have planned and executed. And that's a failure. It's a failure on the side of our government, the whole government. I'm not even going to pick on a human settlement. But when human settlement eventually got to us, it was government again that was the obstacle. eThekwini municipality would not give human settlement land to develop emergency and transitional homes. I'm looking across our parking. Those buildings are an insult to us as a nation. Those high-rise blocks of flat are apartheid housing. They encourage drugs and gangsterism. Because that person's got no pride, he's got no garden to go and chill and relax in. It encourages the worst of our worst. So the fact that we are building high-density accommodation for our people is an insult. The land that those blocks of flats in Durban are all our coasts, irrespective of where our coasts are, it's like pro-neutral. If you add too much water to pro-neutral, you have got a river of solid mass. Those blocks of flats floated out and down and landed on other blocks of flats. It is a miracle that 300 people only died. The same thing happened in Port St. John's.
For closing, please.
Yes.
Please.
It's the same thing that happened in Port St. John's. Guess what? That was last year, March, beginning of this year, and another 2 weeks ago, we've got the same situation. Guys, we cannot keep on fighting the same fights. I agree. I've been to Jukske. We should not be having people building in those areas. But have you seen the legislation for Sipluma? Spatial planning and land use management. Don't even ask me to look at it. It's too much. We've got too much red tape, and it is hampering innovation. Innovators are struggling to get funds to develop innovative building systems. We could have put up a house in 7 days from foundation to roof using an innovative technique. We cannot get funded. Government should be there to make sure that those innovations are fast-tracked, that we do not have to beg for assistance.
Thank you so much.
SPI is a spy program through DTI. I heard about Dora through the beautiful DM that I love.
I have to push for a
gotta say this,
I have to
ma'am.
catch flights.
These projects should not be secrets for a secret society. It should have been exposed to everyone in construction that those funds exist and are not utilized. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Drops mic, literally. Can I get a quick closing from you, please, Second?
Right, that's a tough act to follow. But just in closing, I think on the aspect of innovation, the nature of the land is changing, and it's changing fast. And we also have to change and change fast. Invention is coming up with a new type of brick. Innovation is using the old types of bricks that we've had for the future and for the situations that we have now. So if there's one thing that I hope that we got out of this panel discussion and this meeting is that whether it's new things or it's old things, we have to use all the information that we got today and plan for today, but plan long term. And please, let's make information as available as possible and as accessible as possible so that we can all innovate together in this space. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think that's a very great way to end it. Let's all innovate together in this place. Please, a round of applause for our panelists. One more time. Takane, Lebogang, Alexane, and Rosemary as they make their way off stage. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you. You love this panel. Okay. I love women, man. We just know what we want, and we're so vocal and assertive. I love it. It's absolutely beautiful. Please help me now welcome on stage somebody who is going to present the 2023 Women in Human Settlements INDABA commitments. Because we said we would like to hear some commitments from the Department of Human Settlements. So please, a round of applause for the Acting Director General of Human Settlements, Mr. Zama. A round of applause, please, as he makes his way to stage.
Thank you, Program Director. Greetings to the Honorable Minister, the MEC, the Executive Mayor, MMCs, the colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Colleagues, Honorable Minister, we have listened carefully, But maybe before I start with the commitments, as a man here, as a man here, I must say our problem is that as men, we don't have women whom we look up to. We only look at Brasem in the corner of the, who is a mechanic in the corner of the township. I think we must also learn to have our own women role models and start to adopt the good things that women are doing. We can learn even from our own mothers. Your mother raised you, teaches you, but you can't be a resemblance of your own mother. I think we need to, as men, start to look around and say, who is that woman who inspires me as a man? Whom I can look up to every day. When the minister spoke yesterday, she made reference to Mama Charlotte Makreke. That's a woman that inspires her. I then went back to say, let me look back and say, who is that woman who inspired or who inspires me? I looked at some literature. I went and say, but I think Mama Pila Ndwandwe is my main inspiration. If you don't know the story of Mama Pila Ndwandwe, go and read about her. It will be a story that will inspire you for life. I think as men, that's what we need to start doing. Maybe let me start by reflecting on the mandate of the department. Our mandate is simple, but very difficult and complex. Our mandate is to deliver adequate housing and integrated sustainable human settlement in line with the provisions of the Constitution. Section 26 of the Constitution is clear on what is it that we must do as a department. Therefore, it's that Section 26. But the task that comes with that Section 26, it's very difficult and complex. That's why we're here spending 2 days trying to find solutions as to what is it that we can do and do better. Government have put various legislations to support the Constitution. The Housing Act, the Social Housing Act, the Rental Housing Act, the National Development Plan, and currently we're also busy reviewing our housing or human settlements white paper. Therefore, we are hard at work trying to create a conducive environment to address all the issues that we are talking about in this platform. As the Deputy Minister and the Minister indicated yesterday, the INDABA had objectives. But we didn't start with INDABA. We started with roundtables, where we wanted to get the real and core challenges that faces women in the sector, not only in construction, but the entire value chain in the sector. The whole objective was to share information and knowledge and listen to yourselves and provide space and opportunity for you to network and also to engage with us as departmental officials. Also to foster partnerships and collaborations. Also to provide space to advocate for women's support and interventions, and also to provide some feedback on the provincial roundtable discussions that we had, that were led by the Deputy Minister. There are other issues that were raised during the session that were directed to the department. One issue was around contractors, the main contractors, for a lack of a better word, robbing subcontractors. I think this has been an issue maybe in all discussions that we had yesterday. I also think it's an issue that was raised when we had a briefing with the MEC of the province. What we are saying as a department is that the problem is when you enter into a subcontracting agreement, you sign an agreement with the main contractor, you agree on terms. That's where cheating and complaints starts to come from. What we are suggesting is that, and we're going to talk to provinces and metros, through maybe a ministerial directive, that instead of you being subcontracted, work must be seeded. Because when work is seeded, you've got that session, you sign a session, then you are paid direct by the metro or the provincial government. There is no conduit. There must be no conduit that serves to pay you. Therefore, when you see to say there are 1,000 houses to be built, 300 of those houses, which is 400 of those houses, which is 40%, will be built by designated groups or women. This is a session, but in line with the prescripts of the law, the Public Finance Management Act, so that we are able to manage and monitor that process. With regards to the 30 days payment of invoices, the minister did explain all provincial government departments, all our entities, all our metros are required to report to MINMEC on all outstanding invoices that are not paid. And they are being told to pay immediately if there are no issues on those invoices. Hence, the minister said some of our own colleagues were called by their own MECs to say, why are you not paying these invoices? Because you can't sit with an invoice because the law, it's the law. It's not our own desire or our own making that an invoice must be paid in 30 days. It's the law that says invoices must be paid in 30 days. That for us as government officials to pay you within 30 days, we aren't making you a favor. We are complying with the law. Therefore, it's not up for discussion. Everyone who is not paying will be subjected to min-mac, and that particular colleague will have to explain himself or herself. Facilitate funding for partnerships, funding partnerships and access. What we are saying is that we need to work closely with our own entity, the National NHFC, the National Housing Finance Corporation, so that you get access to the funding that is sitting. We can't be saying to Nedbank and Standard Bank, support SMMEs in the sector, while our own entity is not supporting SMMEs in the sector. We are going to push them to support SMMEs in the sector. Another issue that has been raised here is the barriers to entry, where women in general cannot be able to participate in the sector. What we are saying is, we'll be working with our own, with other entities, especially the NHRPRC, CIDP, all other entities, so that we can start a discussion around the reduction of the cost of compliance. Because you are starting a business, you don't have money, but you are expected to pay all these entities so that you can be able to be compliant. We will be starting a discussion as to how can we reduce the cost of compliance so that people or women who want to come into the sector can be able to come into the sector. It's the removal of red tape. Our processes take too long. You are given an opportunity to participate in a contract, but it takes forever for you to comply until you lose that particular contract. We're gonna look into our own regulatory environment and see if that regulatory environment is assisting the process. Whatever that is an impediment to the process, we need to review and revise so that it doesn't frustrate you as emerging contractors in the sector. We are going to look at initiating a women contractor development program, so that Minister said the houses that we've seen, wherever we go, women build quality houses. I want to attest. You build these houses without a technical skill. You go and research on your own, you comply. What we are saying is, let's have a contractor development program. We are encouraged by, there is a program in KZN Public Works that's called AACSWE, Emerging Contractor Development Program. We'll be saying to provinces, set aside, develop a program and set aside work for women to compete among themselves. Kungabi khona ndoda ezawukompita. Mara kule ndawo zobumnandi, amadoda ahlala pha. Abekho omama pha. Omama bahlezi becabangela ingane, becabangela ukudla. Without omama, umlilo ukhanya ekhaya. Therefore, we're going to look at having that contractor development program in all provinces. We're going to look at the partnership between the Department of Human Settlements, the Department of Higher Education, SITAs, NHBRC, CIDP, to train women contractors. training must not be a once-off thing. Training must be a continuous process. The minister is talking about us adopting alternative building technology. We don't want women not to participate in that particular space. We want to start training women now so that they can participate in the alternative building technology space. We are going to work with CISOs to develop a regulatory framework so that we access opportunities kuma community schemes. Those were part of the CISO's INDABA. I narrated a story of Uma Mundlov, who was part of a community scheme, who was chased out of a community scheme that she initiated. Therefore, we need to have a regulatory framework that ensures the protection and the participation of women in those community schemes. Because what's happening there, it's a group of people who sits, decides that we don't want this one anymore, he or she must go away. The policy and the regulatory environment within the sector to protect women. As I indicated, we will be through the office of the minister issuing a directive that provinces and metros must look at sectionary agreements to protect women contractors and ensure participation of women in the entire value chain so that you are paid directly, not through the main contractor. The minister was shocked to learn that she knows that the quantum is about 235,000 rand, but you get far less than that because the main contractor take a portion of that particular quantum. Now the minister is saying, you deserve the total of that quantum. Also, we're going to review and monitor the policy that regulates the rural housing subsidy quantum. We know that I'm coming from a village. One house is there, another house is there. Therefore, there is a cost of moving material, a cost of site establishment from one site to another site. We're going to assist in terms of you understanding as to what the policy is saying and how can the policy accommodate you in that particular situation. In terms of stakeholder relations, we've learned maybe through your participation, through our roundtables, and through this particular session, usually in the second day, people just disappear. But this hall is almost full. That means you want to hear the minister. You want to hear her department. We're going to continue with this information sharing session, maybe on a quarterly basis, so that we share with you policy directives that are being issued by the minister. Because the minister will issue a policy directive, you are on a construction site, you don't even hear the minister. So that we appraise you about those policies, also available business opportunities within the sector. We also do roundtable discussions within the sector, the funders, and the financiers within the sector. We also improve consumer education in the sector. We must not only exist in Pretoria, we must exist in the entire country. That's what we are going to do going forward, to take the departmental message to every corner of the country. Also, in terms of land tenure issues, security of tenure, we're going to work with the Department of Agriculture and Land Reform and Rural Development to design a policy that will protect women in rural areas. We want to lobby for or advocate for a PTO to be a security of tenure. You know, in rural areas, in KwaZulu-Natal, that land is owned by Ngonyama Trust. Therefore, when you live in rural areas, you can't have a title deed. You can only have a PTO. We're saying we're going to talk to our sister departments so that that PTO protect abomama masekshona ubaba ukuthi umama angaqoshwa ekuhlaleni. We're going to fast track the implementation of the title deeds restoration program, and we're going to ensure that women are prioritized. If we issue 100 title deeds, 50 must be women, or 60 must be women, or 70 must be women, but nothing must be less than 50. Asisho ukuthi masiboneka baba sawiyeka. Kodwa we know ukuthi githi kwashona ubaba where I was born. Then ugogo decided to ukudayisa umuzi kababa because uma had nothing to show. Therefore, women must be protected. We're going to look at allocation of work to women professionals in terms of conveyancers, in terms of planners, in terms of quantity surveyors, in terms of architects. In our projects, women must be protected, must be accommodated, not really accommodated, because they qualify. They have qualifications, they have experience. Therefore, they must be afforded opportunities. Uzangishaya ku-minister ngale, angikhanvasile no-minister lengizoyisho. What we are saying, NHFC as our own finance institution, as our own bank, 20% of their loan book must go to SMMEs. When you go to India, in India and Rwanda, they've got State Bank. The State Bank, 10% of their loan book goes to SMMEs. That forces other banks to compete in that SMME space. We're therefore saying our proposal is that NHFC as our own financier, their loan book, 20% of their loan book must go to SMMEs targeting women and designated group. We must establish partnership with the financial institutions, especially the Banking Association of South Africa, DPSA, and SIDA. What we are saying with SIDA, SIDA is located in all districts of the country. We'll be lobbying our own entities, NHBRC, CISOS, HDA, SHRA to have service desks at SETA offices, so that if SHRA has tenders, HDA has tenders, NHBRC issues of enrollment, women and SMMEs in general are able to go at SETA offices and go to a one-stop shop and access those particular services. Therefore, that's what we want to do going forward. Lastly, I want to touch on the issue of the emergency housing. I know the minister will dwell on that one, but I must indicate that we take note of the presentation, especially around disaster-prone areas. We have already received an instruction from the minister to say, go and identify all these disaster-prone areas, locate them and develop relocation strategies as to how those people can be relocated so that they can be taken away from the disaster-prone, from a disaster zone. Secondly, we're looking at reblocking of all informal settlements to mitigate against disasters. It might be fire, floods, and so forth. We've started that process. Hence, the minister have taken the disaster or the emergency housing to be a national function. That function no longer sits with provinces and metros, sits with the national department, because the minister wanted to ensure that she intervenes directly and has a plan of action as to how she's going to intervene in that regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those commitments. I was busy jotting down some of them so that we can then remember what it is that we have spoken about today. You know, we have to land the plane at some time. I wish we could stay here a week. I think there's a lot we could speak on, but we have to come to a close, and I'd like to please call upon someone, again, special to us. We really made a loud noise for her yesterday when she came the first time to speak, and she'll be doing the closing remarks now. So please help me again warmly welcome the Honorable Minister of Human Settlements.
Before I do my closing remarks, you may sit down. Thank you very much. Before I do my closing remarks, I'm going to request all panel members to come through to stage. We've got something for them that we are going to hand to them as a way of appreciation. All the colleagues that have been on the panel, all of them, please come through to stage. As we say, one of the things that we thought we'll do with the MEC, it's part of supporting local, but also promoting women in various areas. So just bring me one here. I want to explain the gift we are going to give them. Here we've got gifts. It's wines for the panel members. It's the only winery in the Northern Cape. They are the largest in winemaking in the province, working with small wine estates and developing small wine makers in the province. The Ayana that was sponsored last night, I saw you had a couple of nice things. They were sponsored, there were others that were there. They employ about 300 young people throughout the value chain of the winemaking, from agriculture to packaging. The stretch of the grape farm starts from Grobler Hope to Namakwa along the Orange River. Nozipo didn't write everything about them. I was told it's a woman-owned wine farmer now. I want to be sure it's still, because I was promised. That was my request. Go find a woman winemaker in the Northern Cape that we can support. So part of the issue that we are conscious about is supporting locals. You can see we are in a township, so local economic development. So we do this, we must do the same when we work as women. So this is what we are giving to all our panel members together with the MEC. So MEC, if you can help me, we hand over the wines to our panel members as part of appreciating them and the work that they had to do to prepare for these sessions. Because it's not easy to be a panel member. You must always think about what is going to come, prepare, and just agreeing to being here and supporting this initiative. Thank you very much. I think we're done. Thank you very much for that, and we really appreciate the support. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not so sure what happened with the music. I want to sincerely apologize. I think the people there got overexcited over themselves. This is still a government event, and therefore government protocols are important to be always observed. Principles are never set aside, even at whatever time we are. Let me take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of our MEC, MEC FAS, MEC of Coxstar in the Northern Cape. Just want to take this opportunity, MEC, to appreciate you and thank you very much with your team for a successful INDABA. When I called you, people would not know, we called you in short notice. When the team that was working and with the DMTM reported, because she had wanted it to be in another province, and she called to say, Minister, we don't seem to be winning. So I picked up a call. I said, I'll prefer it to be Northern Cape, but I had left you and the organizing team. But let me talk to the MEC. Immediately when I called, he said, definitely, Minister, we will be ready to host and we'll make it a success. And when later the team went to talk to him and the team, he said, I do not want it in any other area. There's an area in a community that I wanted, Minister, because we must learn to do things amongst our people. Yeah. And for that, I appreciate MEC. Today, as human settlements, we have shown that as much as we build communities, we exist among communities. And we can never have this type of conversations away from the people that we serve. So you've really set the bar and you've become a trendsetter, because I think I will not expect anything less from other MECs when I go to their provinces and we are hosting together. So it's doable. Sometimes people tell you, no, there's no infrastructure, will not be able to host this in this manner, it needs to be in this urban area. You've proven that it can be done, and it has been done. So thank you very much, MEC, for this. This is a real empowerment to our communities and to our SMMEs. It is a sign that we are putting our money where our mouth is. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much to our panel members, as I said earlier on here, for the work that they have been doing, the conversations that have enriched. Again here, I said to the team, you know, at some point, there's a weakness in government. We love listening to our voices. It's a very, very serious weakness. Most of the time you come to government events, we talk, it's us talking. You look at the program, it gets filled by all the government or even that department's people. So at some point I got a feedback, there was a bit unhappiness with my team. Apparently some thought that, you know, we should have entities there, we should have people from the department. I said, we are there to listen, all of us. Part of listening, even if we have sister department and sister entities, let's go and listen at what they are doing and how we can collaborate with them. And I think that has been a good decision that I've made and put my foot down on it, because it has been valuable discussions that we've received here. But I must say up front, I must apologize to two sectors that have come through that felt that we did not include them. And that's the NGO sector, that their voice seemed not to have been on the panels. But secondly, the conveyances, we didn't have them on the panels. But it doesn't mean that their issues are left out as we come out of here. I do apologize for that. In terms of just making sure that we have a representative, because I did say to the team, this is not a women in construction INDABA. It's human settlements INDABA. So it's because we must start dealing with the entirety of the value chain and exposing all women to the opportunities that exist, but also ensuring that everybody that is within the sector does benefit. So it was good to hear somebody talking about what the work they're doing in terms of the ICT sector, having spent years in that sector as well. I still have passion about it. But we're building communities, for example, where we need fiber to home as part of what we are doing. And it's going to be good to understand what are the opportunities in that space, because we've decided as well, the team wanted me to include it in the specs. I said, let's leave it for the private sector to thrill, because you can't continue to want to do everything as government. So there are sectors that will continue to support, but also to make sure that we are able to make sure that there are benefits for them. So as I said, ladies and gentlemen, before, and I want to repeat it here, our basic premise is that women's emancipation and women empowerment in the context of economic transformation is a non-negotiable. The struggle for freedom will never be complete until women enjoy equal status as their male counterparts. As we wrap up this month, it doesn't mean that we are concluding all the work that we have to do in empowerment of women, but we've got to continue. This month helps us to take stock on what we have done, the road travel, and also chart the way forward. As Michelle Obama said, no country can ever truly flourish if it stifles the potential of its women and deprives itself of the contributions of half of its citizens, quote unquote. The discussions in these 2 days have been a reminder that our policies on women empowerment as government are still not being implemented. When women entrepreneurs face an uphill battle when starting or growing their businesses, they still face challenges such as lack of access to finance, as we've heard from the panels and members who contributed, gender biases or gender discriminations on women entrepreneurs, lack of education and training, the expectation that women are the only member of the household that should be balancing work and family life, and often to their disadvantage. Women are not able to break into the support network that share their understandings and goals. Collectively, these challenges have placed women at disadvantaged economic status, and the role of women in economic transformation should be centered around breaking these barriers. One of the trailblazers that we listened to last night, who narrated her story of her struggle in the sector, last night made a very point about kicking open closed doors. She said that she has been deeply hurt, but not discouraged. She has been frightened, but she has not forgotten how to be brave. She finds strength working in the company of other strong women, and she's willing to face the loneliness that is demanded by the road to achieve gender equality. And this many of us can relate as we fight and ensure that in every responsibility that we have, we are able to contribute positively to the development of women and empowerment and gender equality. In these 2 days, I've learned a lot about the shackles that still hold women back in the human settlement sector. One of the participants raised the issue and made reference that we must be bold and announce 500 million allocation of the grants that should go to women. That's nothing. No. Let me tell you what 40% in human settlements is in terms of rent value. And that's why we must demand its implementation. Our grants, that includes Human Settlement Development Grant, what is HSDG, Urban Settlement Development Grant, which is USDG, the Informal Settlement Upgrading Partnership Grant, which is the ISUPG, amounts to approximately 29 billion. That's the amount that is sitting with the provinces and our metros. This means when we say we are setting aside 40%, we mean that 11 billion is set aside for women. That's what it means. 40% is 11 billion. So we're not playing when we talk transformation. You know, in the sector, that amount is what we have said, it's what we are spending. So the implementation of this set aside remains important to us across provinces. There are provinces that are implementing, and there are provinces that are still lagging behind. And that's what we must push. Because once we push for its implementation completely across provinces, it means we have 11 billion in the hands of women. That's what it means. So we're not playing, we mean business when we say we're talking about empowerment of women. Now, as we do, there are quite a number of issues that we raised. And the amount I mentioned, by the way, is just on grants. So let's talk on also, just on the operational costs by the department, by our entities. Now, if we emphasize this and start monitoring, it will give us a lot of money. Because the overall budget of the department is 33 billion. So 29 billion is on grants, and the remainder is on operational costs. Now that's where as well we must start paying attention. Where is this money being spent? So that's the commitment we are making. That in what we are doing in this portfolio, we started with 40% of the grants, we are making progress. What we need, the report that comes, all entities now, when we meet in March, must tell us that they have spent the 40% as well in their budgets on women. That's the report. We are not going to say we are still planning, so we want reports in March. And we'll request all the MECs to give us that report. It's easy even for us because we monitor it through MINMEC. So we'll continue to monitor and we'll report. And one of the issues as part of monitoring, we'll start publicizing on our website which provinces are spending the 40% and which ones are not. Because we must continue with transparency and accountability. There was an issue raised around policy review. We are currently on a policy review. DDG Mhlongo is busy finalizing. What I'm going to request is that she must urgently put together a roundtable specifically on policy review, must send to the women who are participating here and others, and schedule roundtable, even if it's jointly, virtually, where we can take through women on what we are proposing in terms of the policy review, so that by the time we go to cabinet, we have your voices. That's a commitment. There was a request that we must establish a task team to work with us so that we have a report jointly in March 2022. What I'm going to request here is that each subsector give me one woman by Friday next week to establish that task team. That task team will be tasked to monitor and report in March. So I will also be accountable to that task team. They will ask me, Minister, these are the things you have committed. So that in March, when we gather on the 8th, celebrating International Women's Day, it's them who report on what we had committed today. We agree that it's not a talk shop. On the issue of ABT and emergency housing, let me start with the emergency housing and perhaps some of the issues that came just on this last panel. There are two things, ladies and gentlemen, that we must pay attention to. And also the issue of all of us being transparent and also honest to each other. You see, part of why we end up with disasters is that people put themselves where it's dangerous. Most of the areas where are affected by floods is not where government has placed people. I went to Mpumalanga some other time. I found people having put themselves under high mast currency. And I asked, why? Because you interact, and my team knows, Sometimes I go formally to areas, sometimes if I want to have more in-depth analysis and understanding of the area, I go informally. I wear my All-Star, my cap, and I go in and I sit with communities and ask questions. Now they were saying no, they have realized that government, when there are disasters or something, there's a threat of life, we rush and provide solutions. Meaning they are deliberately jumping the queue. So it's the same thing. There are many areas, for example, where you'd go and say to people, where you are sitting is not correct. There's which informal settlement I was at just before the last one, where the fires were. We went there. Those fires broke out in Durban. We went and we engaged. When I asked questions, is that a land was made available, people who were supposed to be relocated, they refused. And they remained where they were. Now, when the fire broke, they said, no, we can't move. Now, it's some of the challenges that we find in communities when we deal with sometimes informal settlements. I've committed and the municipalities, I've asked them as an instruction to set aside 5% in their in their informal settlement upgrading grant for reblocking. This is an opportunity because we're going to need social facilitators. We're going to need people who will help us, and I'm thinking about the NGOs because they work in this space to help us reblock this informal settlements. Now, we do not have money to resolve the issues of all these informal settlements. Just in Free State I found just between 3 months ago, there were about 12 new informal settlements in 3 months. The municipalities didn't evict. Now, this is a moving target. And I say this because this responsibility lies with municipalities to evict. When illegal occupation of land happens, Paja says you must evict within 48 hours. If you fail within 48 hours, then you can't remove them. You've got to provide alternative accommodation. They've asked us to amend the legislation in terms of that. We are discussing with Minister Didiza because that's where it's sitting. But also in the meantime, we are saying municipalities must evict because it becomes difficult to move people once they've settled. Annually, we started working on the 1,500 informal settlements that are there. And mostly in urban areas, it's difficult because when you say to them, there is no land available for you to be built here, we'd like to move you, they say, no, we can't because it's far from our work. But again, the reality is that 80% of the people who are in informal settlements do not qualify for free housing. They don't. And that's why my conversation with Shra to increasing capacity in the social housing space. Because these are people who qualify for rentals that we could be able to support. But again, it's still a challenge because majority of the people in informal settlements are foreign nationals who do not qualify by policy for me to provide a solution for. For example, in Tshwane, there's one informal settlement, two actually informal settlements that the mayor did confirm. They've done to do a verification, 100% foreign nationals. As a Minister of Human Settlements, I have no role in that informal settlement because the policy is very clear on my responsibility. It has to be based on citizenship. That's the policy, unfortunately. So when it's like that, I do not have a role. So part of the challenge that we have when we deal with informal settlements is that as you remove the people that qualify to go where they're supposed to be, the ones that are remaining are the ones that do not qualify for support. It's the same challenge at Jaske River. So Tsomani was started specifically to respond to that informal settlement and the people who are there. So part of the weakness is that when people were moved, that was not demolished. But equally, there was an issue of a backlog of backyard dwelling. You'd know in the old townships, whether you deal with Soweto, you deal with Alexander, it's very many families that are staying in one yard that are looking for housing opportunity. So that is the issue. You find land away from Alexander, they're not willing to move. If you look at the number of units just responding on Alexander in terms of building, it's a lot. I know quite a number of people think that we've not done much. We've done quite a lot. That's why I make an example of Tsutsumani. If you know Alexander, Tsutsumani is a development that was started by this government in responding to the needs of housing in that area, and many others that are adjacent to that. So that's the challenge we have. So with the emergency housing now, as Acting DG said, we've taken over the responsibility because, one, we wanted to improve the turnaround time, because if there's an emergency, if there's a disaster, people are already out within 24 hours. But then there's procurement requirements by AG. And ladies, please understand me. When we say this 40% is available, it's available, but we still have to comply with procurement processes. I can't stand as a minister and say, no, this 40% is for the following women. I'll be taken to court. We are saying, for example, they can set aside and ensure in the spending. We've put that as a policy, but there's still, you've got to, it has to be open, it has to be transparent, it has to be competitive, and in terms of pricing, because if we can just set aside, you can give us any price, we'll not know that you are giving us a higher price or not. So you still have to compete, because you still have to operate like normal business people. So there isn't going to be, I think we must be clear, a minister that interferes with procurement processes, because I'll be taken to court. I'm not allowed by PFMA, nor any other legislation. So we set policy in terms of set aside. We monitor that money is spent in women, on women companies. And that's what we are doing in other provinces. That's why we are saying there's quite a lot of progress, and that's what DM was talking about. Now, the last point I want to talk about, it's on ABT. Alternative building technologies. I can tell you, when we talk about the issue of climate resilience and climate response, one of the issues that we are going to respond to as the sector is alternative building technologies, because we've got to reduce our carbon footprint contribution. The sector contributes quite a lot in terms of the material that we use. So there is a push for us to change in utilization of the current material. So I'm going to appeal, if there is a need for us to run workshops, but start looking at partnerships that will help you play in the space. You will not be able to wake up tomorrow and know how to build with alternative building technologies. Build partnerships, go for joint ventures, and start preparing yourself. Because I can tell you, all provinces are starting to move towards that direction. We've agreed with the team that it's only now, while we're preparing, they will be going out. I have pronounced that going forward for emergency housing, we're no longer going to use the TRUs that you know today. We are going to provide permanent solutions through ABT. We are doing away, because we're spending double, and it's not sustainable for us. But most of the time we put people in these TRUs, they stay for 10 years, when it's not even supposed to be, they're supposed to be few months in it. So it's respending and misuse of the limited resources that we have. So ready yourself for this alternative building technology, because even going forward, so that by the time we decide to say, okay, because we will be setting a percentage of how much per HSDG or USDG or HSDG grants has to be spent on alternative technology building. So by that time, don't be left behind as women. Be ready for that, I'm telling you now, so that when the policy pronouncement come, you are not left behind. Also, you have to fold your arms. Mina, what I prefer is people who stand up and work for themselves. We'll open doors, but I'm not going to spoon feed you. We'll open doors, I'm not going to be carrying you on my back to the fourth. You must either, if you can't walk, you must crawl to it. We understand each other, ne? If you can't walk, if you can't run, you will walk. If you can't walk, you will crawl to it. That's what it means. I do not want us as women to fool ourselves and to bluff each other because I want to say nice things here as a minister. No. Those who know me better. I do not. I wonder, even if you come to me having not researched, I get angry, I get irritated. You just see it on my face. Because one of the things that we must stop, maybe it's because when I was young, I was still in the youth league when my regional secretary of the NC said to me, Kensani, when you come to meetings, don't come to talk general knowledge. Try and inform yourself about what you are talking about. Because one of the weaknesses for us as women, and what takes us backward, is that we do not research. We must prepare. The last point as well. As we prepare, please don't go to meetings unprepared. You see, if I can tell you stories about some of us, sometimes my team gets angry. But you see, this thing of you being accessible easily, it's a problem. Somebody asks for time, for meeting, you spare them that 30 minutes. They come and waffle. No single page written. It's not right. It's not correct. We must tell each other. It's about empowerment, isn't it? Yeah. No one will take you serious. When you arrive at a meeting, you have no single slide of what you are doing and who you are. Never. They are going to listen to you, get out of the door, they say, what a waste of my time. They continue. We've got to show up. Make sure that when you leave that office, you see, we must understand, when you are given an opportunity to go and talk to somebody or present, take it as if this is the last thing ever you are doing. Or whatever, even if it's just because you don't know what that person is looking for. You could be at that moment and say, hey, this person, you know, actually I can utilize this person in this area. Make an effort to impress. Go into areas and prepare. Don't ask for time on issues that you don't even know. Websites are there, colleagues. We have access to internet, many of us. Just to go into the website quickly and understand what is this about. You see, having been in different portfolios, this is my 5th one as a minister. So there would be those who come to me, they came to me when I was in energy. There's some smaller thing we are doing in energy. I left energy, I went to communication, smaller thing I'm doing in communication. I left communication, I went to science and technology, smaller thing we are doing. You come to, I went to tourism, they are still doing. I went to human settlement, they still want to do smaller things. And then you ask, when are you a jack of all trades? As an interpreter, what is it that you are specializing on, that you want to grow on? Because at least there must be some level of consistency, that over time, it will give you the years of experience, that you've been in this field, and then we can call you an expert in this field. Because you've been there, you are doing, you are learning, you are growing in this thing. We must ask you about the weaknesses and the strength of that sector. Now, if we go down, when are you going to master anything? So, learning to focus is part of growth. So it's those things that are important as entrepreneurs, as business people, as we play in various sectors. And also making sure that when you come and say, Minister, let's meet, and I say, yes, let's meet, you need to know what you are bringing on the table. What is your proposal? Don't come to me and say, I wanted to see if there's something I can do. We don't work like that. You must be able to say, Minister, I've looked at this. There's an entity called SHRA. I've applied, I'm not getting through, but I understand this could be the weakness. Can you assist us and block this thing? One of the weaknesses as well is colleagues sometimes thinking that when you meet with the minister, you're going to get a contract. actually are likely to be disqualified for meeting with me and discussing a contract, because it's not allowed by law. So if there's a business opportunity, bid. Come to me if there are constraints and concerns, and if there's suspicion. You know, there's a young lady who came to me that led to me doing a forensic in one of my entities, because she applied and she felt that these people are bullying me. They are taking me out of business. They are colluding with the people that have gone into a joint venture. I understand that they are telling them to ditch me so that they can bring another man into that. And I did an investigation. It's not interference with procurement. I'm ensuring that there's no manipulation of processes and there's fairness of process for everyone. That's my responsibility. So that's how we need to understand the roles and understanding when you come to a minister, the conversations that you have. So today, yesterday and today, it has been a good, fruitful engagement. I've really enjoyed being here, sitting and listening to the passion that I've seen here. There's hope for this country. There is hope for this country because of you. This pack that we have, for me, it's like all of you are holding a candle that is on. What we need is to light the next candle so that the fire can grow. The light can grow in our country. Let's spread the word and encourage other women. There might be more women that we would have liked to be here. Let's not be selfish, let's share the information. There are many of us who are organizations here. I'm hoping that when we go back, part of what we'll do, we'll share the experiences, the knowledge, and also this roadmap that we have, so that we encourage more women that maybe they are sitting and felt that, you know, the way I've been so hard done with, I don't even want to get into any gathering because I'm tired. Let's go back, take these candles that we've got that are on today and light them on and give them hope. Thank you very much.
It is said that honesty is the first chapter in the book of wisdom. And I think, you know, Honorable Minister has definitely given us a few things to chew on a little bit. We have come to the end of the Women in INDABA for 2023. Just a few announcements. We will be having lunch after this, after which then you may all, you know, carry on with your travel plans, whatever those plans are. But we do wish you sincere travel mercies. Remember that the QR code on the back of your badge is live now with all the presentations and the videos, but also feel free to check for some of the content on our on the Department of Human Settlements social media pages. Every time I'm somewhere, I feel like the audience makes me part of the family. That's why I said our social media pages. So please do check the social media pages. That's Instagram, that's also on Facebook, and also you can check it out on LinkedIn, and of course the website for the content that we have shared in the last 2 days. I honestly wish you the utmost luck and a great journey in implementing the stuff that you will be all implementing as a collective and as individuals. It's going to be exciting to see what comes out of the 8th of March on International Women's Day. But for the last time in the last 2 days, my name is Tami Nkanyumeng. It's been an absolute pleasure. Travel safely. Cheers, everybody.